Welcome to Mortification of Spin, a casual conversation about things that count, with Carl Trueman, Todd Pruitt, and Amy Bird. Mortification of Spin is a weekly podcast from the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals. This week, our hosts will talk about the role of pastors in ministry and the many challenges that a pastor will face. They'll answer questions such as, what should a church look for in a pastor, and how should a pastor act toward his congregation? Stay tuned after to find out how to get a free MP3, Faithful and Relevant Pastoral Ministry.
You are listening to Mortification of Spin, and this time me and my cohorts, Carl and Amy, we find ourselves in a Starbucks, not just any Starbucks, we're in the Starbucks in the Encounter Church. The Encounter Church used to be, I think, some sort of mega mall, but now it's quite lovely. There's leather seating areas and this lovely Starbucks. There's pastries. There is what looks like was a zip line that leads into the worship encounter space. And we're just here sipping down some coffee and people watching, wondering about the church, pastoral ministry. I do believe it was the pastor that zipped by us just a minute ago into the service, and it looks like another one of the staff members is getting ready to ride a Harley Davidson in for some sort of a sermon illustration. Carl, I've got to tell you, I'm not nearly that cutting edge. Now, Amy, I don't know what it's like in Presbyterian churches in West Virginia. Mm-hmm. I don't know if zip lines and Starbucks are common.
Or indeed running hot and cold water and electricity.
Exactly. And, I mean, Amy just looks relaxed given the fact that there are no marauding bands of cannibals. But in the Shenandoah Valley, I have yet at our church to install a zip line. I don't know if the people would appreciate it that much. I don't know how friendly.
I can see you now coming in on a zip line.
I think it would be quite a treat.
Yes.
Pipe and smoke.
Absolutely. I think it'd be trailing pipe smoke behind me. I think it'd be
smoke rings.
Exactly. I mean, which really brings up the pressing issue for me, which is just what level of zipline skills is it necessary for a pastor to have these days?
I think in the OPC, zipline skills, you don't need particularly good skills in that area. I mean, it's about 25 feet from the back of the auditorium to the front of it. So
you can't even build up any momentum.
Yeah, you don't build up any momentum in that time. I mean, you put the zipline on and then I literally step from the back of my church to behind the pulpit.
You should maybe do the motorcycle thing then and just wheelie in.
Yeah, motorcycle could be good, or sports car.
Sports car. How about nunchucks?
Nunchucks would be good. Of course, Carl, you tease me, but you've really joined the ranks of the mega church pastor because as an OPC church that actually runs over 100, that puts you in superstar status.
It does. In fact, we're touching 160, 170 most Sundays now. So
with a large women's ministry.
Man, yeah. Well,
I'm like the OPC Ed Young, but without the teeth and the hair.
Wow. Oh, that's too bad.
That's the kind of level I'm on.
So you won't be selling your own toothpaste.
Yeah. And my new book, Your Worst Life Now, is coming out fairly shortly.
Good.
Yeah, make every day Monday morning. That kind of that's the follow-up volume.
You get a free cup of this coffee with each purchase.
Right. It does look, though, when you look around at churches in the United States in particular, I think you can tell a lot about people's theology by the shape of pastoral ministry. Whether your theology drives your pastoral ministry or whether your pastoral ministry drives your theology, there is an intimate connection between the two, such that observing pastoral practice in a church will reveal an awful lot about what the theological convictions or lack thereof there are in that particular congregation.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Todd?
Absolutely. In fact, it was really interesting. I was reading a church's online email newsletter just within the last 2 weeks, and they're searching for a senior pastor. And one of the things that made me very sad as I was reading what they were communicating
You're
to the
looking for another job already?
No.
And we thought you were doing so well.
No.
All Pruitt records.
I promise you that's not what it is, but I cannot get into the details. No, that is not what it is. But it was sad to me because, and this is where to speak to your question about actually how pastoral ministry is done. really teaches a lot to the congregation about what it believes. So for instance, the elders of the church were communicating to the congregation, here are the qualities, here are the things we're looking for in the next senior pastor. And not a single thing on the list was a biblical category or a biblical qualification. And not a single biblical category, not a single biblical qualification made the list. And it was for me a very sad moment for the state of this church and the church.
This was an evangelical church you were talking about?
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty stunning, even by contemporary standards.
It was just very sad, and it made me think again. I've been preaching through Acts, and we've just gotten through part of chapter 6, and you know, in the first 7 verses of chapter 6 is the creation of the office of deacon, basically, where as a part of that, the elders of the apostles, the forerunners of the elders, so to speak, are making it very clear, here is what we have to do. We can't do these things because we have to be committed to these things over here. And, of course, what they had to be committed to was the ministry of the word and prayer, because that's what pastors do.
Mm-hmm. Amy, you're a woman. I know you're an honorary guy, but you're also a woman in your spare time.
I know.
What are you looking for in a pastor? Great teeth, blonde hair, you know?
Yeah, that's the first thing I look for is, is he well-dressed? Yeah. Can he speak clearly?
Okay, so Todd is disqualified straight away.
Energetic? How much he smiles?
It's like
that's
the anti-Todd you're describing.
Bites his lower lip.
What is his taste in coffee? Like I'm finding at this church we're visiting today that, I think that the coffee says a lot about the pastor as well. It does.
Yes. None of this blonde roast.
Starbucks tend to burn their beans a little, do you think?
Absolutely.
Yes, over burnt beans. But no, I was just thinking a lot. I've had a conversation with an older woman about pastoral ministry, and I was just thinking of how maybe the different generations have been looking for different things. And one thing this woman noticed was that a new pastor came into a church, a younger pastor, and the pastoral visits just kind of stopped, and that all got delegated to the elders of the church. And someone in this woman's generation thought of it as very important for the pastor to personally visit them when they're ill, or maybe when they haven't made it to church because of their elderly condition. And so for her, this was just one of the main issues. What do you guys think about that? And what do you think maybe are things that the younger people are looking for now coming into the church?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for pastors to be involved in visiting members of the church. Now, the larger a church becomes, the church has to understand.
And this was a pretty large church.
Yeah. I mean, the church has to understand that not every single person who finds themselves in the hospital is going to get a visit from, quote, the pastor or the senior minister of the church. As the church grows, that becomes less and less likely. And that's, again, part of the ministry of elders. I think deacons also are suitable for part of that ministry, as well as the godly lay people in the church. That said, whether you're a pastor of a church of 80 people or 8,000 people, if you're a pastor, you need to be, in my opinion, you need to be involved in the visiting of people in your church. Because it's a part of what pastors do as shepherds. And I would say also there's practical implications. I'm a better preacher if I am in the homes of people in my church, and in certain cases also in the hospital rooms of people in my church. I'm a better preacher. I'm a more empathetic preacher. I'm a more, my preaching is more on Sunday mornings when I know the various stories that are going on in people's lives. It makes me a better preacher. Mm-hmm. So I serve them better as a preacher when I'm visiting.
Yeah, I agree with Todd in broad principle there. I think it can vary from church to church. Mm-hmm. In my own situation, the church has not been able to afford a full-time pastor. So I was brought on as the part-time pastor with prime responsibility of making sure the pulpit is filled consistently Sunday by Sunday. And with another full-time job, that limits the ability to visit someone. Mm-hmm. Having said that, newborn child, serious illness, hospitalization, those kind of things would certainly visit discipline issues, of course. One does personal visits. I tend to go either with my wife or with one of the elders, depending on the issue. But I think the personal contact is important. I think a broad elder strategy on it is useful as well, in that we divide our congregation up into elders have particular responsibility for particular lists of people, and they're not required to visit them, but they are required to effectively check up on them, whether that's on a Sunday or during the week. It doesn't matter, as long as we've got some idea of what's going on. And each elder reports at the monthly session meeting if there are any issues or anything that we need to pray for or pay particular attention to among the congregation. So I agree with Todd. Personal contact is very important and does impact the way you preach. I preach differently at my home church to churches when I'm visiting, because I know the people in my home church, and I tailor my message somewhat to needs, issues within the local congregation.
Yeah, and I mean, I would think that there's also this line that you cross to where you're so consumed in the personal visits that your own children or your own wife is being neglected. And
Well, and those are things that a pastor has to guard. So a pastor has to guard the health of his family. I understand why Paul would make a statement to certain people and saying, you know what, it'd probably be best for you to be like me and single, because the fact is, with the responsibilities of being a husband and a father, I have to draw certain boundaries that Paul or a single pastor does not have to draw. Now, I'm glad that I'm married and have kids. I wouldn't do it any other way, but a pastor who's married has to take personal responsibility for drawing those boundaries, and I haven't always done it well. My family's had to sacrifice a lot of time with me, and can you imagine sacrificing time away from me? But
It would be hard.
It would be, and
Very hard.
But that said, a pastor's got to be able to draw those boundaries. And then the other thing is that a pastor cannot let those sorts of things, visits and being in touch with people, if that begins to impact negatively the time he's able to spend in preparation and the teaching and the preaching of the word, then that's wrong too. And again, it's very clear in Acts chapter 6, the apostles said, as wonderful and important thing it was, we're talking about distributing food to hungry people who would starve without it. And they said, we can't do that, because if we do, we won't be doing the necessary thing, which is ministry of the word and prayer. And, there's a lot of part-time pastors out there. There's a lot of bivocational pastors out there. And to them, I would say, if you have to choose between a visit and preaching and teaching and preparation for that, then read the first 7 verses of chapter 6 and make the choice that's clear at that point.
Well, speaking of ministering to the congregants, what do you think are the top issues that have come to your attention in the church today? That
Free-range chickens.
Free-range chicken, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Potlucks have been a lot of tension.
Plant-based diets.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people struggling with that.
Yes.
Organic toys in the nursery.
Yeah.
Food justice.
Yeah. Failure of the church to transform ballet and theater in Chicago and New York.
This is going downhill very quick. Amy, what was your question?
What do you think are the pressing issues that pastors need to address
Plant-based
with the
diet,
people in
I
their
told you.
church?
So Carl,
Because it does change, I think.
Carl, you're still in Philadelphia, so you have a lot more pathology to deal with than
Yeah,
I do.
I think right-wing politics is going. No, I'm gonna, I think, and I talk, I'm pastor of, I suppose, what would be described as a modest-sized church. It's not a small church, a modest-sized church. Speaking purely from my limited personal experience, I think internet pornography is a big issue and not likely to vanish anytime soon. I think the usual tensions within marriages, that would be an issue. I think there are certain, every church throws them up, characters who simply do not like the authority of church office. One has to deal with that on a sadly fairly regular basis. So those would be 3 things in my limited experience. And then just, the normal range of human depravity.
And bad Christian books.
Combating bad Christian books.
We burn them. Todd taught me about that.
Absolutely.
Can of gasoline, lighter, gather a crowd in the car park.
My
boom,
daughter
get rid
did
of them.
something interesting. She was cleaning out her backpack. The school year just ended, and she just finished her freshman year in high school. And she's like, "Mom, I'm making a burn pile of all the work I did this year that I really don't care about." And interestingly enough, then she had the pile of work that she did care about. And it really was kind of a defining moment for her.
Yeah.
It's like a Pruitt disciple. It's
Absolutely.
terrifying. Yeah.
Does my heart good.
She's like, I want to invite all my friends over with their burn piles.
Yeah, yeah.
But she started smoking a pipe recently.
Well, I would agree with everything Carl said as far as the kinds of daily, weekly sorts of things we deal with in people's lives. So on any given day, somebody will talk to me about an issue with pornography, an issue in their marriage, heartbreak in regard to child raising type issues, also suffering. So we have, in any church, you're going to have people dying of cancer or suffering that comes from various other sources. And so helping people navigate that, helping people to die well, is what happens in just the ordinary work of pastoring. And it's interesting, Carl mentioned, helping people see the value and the place of those in spiritual authority. Now, obviously, we've heard a lot about spiritual abuse and different things like that. We all recognize that there's goofballs out there. But the fact is, the Bible also does establish leadership within the church that is there to help God's people through discipline, through encouragement, through the ministry of the word, etc. And oftentimes, I think some of the struggle that people go through is that they've become detached in a practical sense from the ministry of the church. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the officers of the church, they either don't have a biblical polity, so they don't have officers in the church, or those that do serve might not be doing a very good job of it. But I think part of the role of the elder in the church is to help God's people live in community so that either in their suffering they find comfort or in their sin they find correction.
Do you think it's harder now to foster this community and facilitate this community within churches with all the busyness that we seem to have? And, a lot of people commute quite a ways to go to church, and then, we're texting, and we're, a lot of relationships are through social media. So how's that affected the pastoral ministry?
Well, the rise of the consumerist approach to church also. So I treat the church the way I would treat a grocery store. I go to the one that gives me the best goods and services, or I go to one for the produce, and I go to the other because they have the cheapest price on Ben and Jerry's. And it's not unusual anymore for people to find churches, for people to find people in their churches that come to this church for the music, but then they go to the other church for the youth program,
right,
or that sort of thing. And so the idea of being in covenant, having taken vows to a church, is anathema to some.
Yeah, I think the invention of the automobile changed the church permanently. Made it very difficult to discipline because somebody can just jump in the car and drive. And you'll even find churches within the same denomination sometimes. It's easy to be a Presbyterian triumphalist on discipline, but actually, I'm pretty sure if you discipline somebody in one church and they drive far enough, they'll find somebody else in the same denomination will take them in. The automobile transformed church discipline and transformed community life in a very, very fundamental way. For myself, I don't see membership vows as any less serious than ordination vows.
Right.
And yet people will walk away from their membership vows as if it doesn't really matter at all. I mean, you don't like the church, there are ways we would never stop somebody leaving our church unless they're under discipline. But there are courteous and procedural ways of doing that allow you to honour your vows while moving to where you wish to move to. We're not a cult. We're not going to say, no, you can't move. But there's a way of doing it that allows you to not break your vow. But we live in a very casual era.
One of the things that I've appreciated so much about being a Presbyterian now is the presence of vows for church members. I'd never seen that before. Now, I knew it was coming because I'd been studying Presbyterian polity, and I'd been reading the Book of Church Order for a couple of years before I actually made that switch. But I'd never seen or had a category for people joining a church and taking vows before the gathered fellowship. It's a powerful moment.
You thought we were the Moonies or something.
Exactly.
Well, it was a really neat thing. My pastor and elders asked me to kind of revamp our church library, which is kind of like a glorified walk-in closet. So as I was going in there and looking through some of the things, I found like all these little cards, like from where you would check out your book, but it was just a stack of those library cards. And I was looking at the names on the cards, and these people are like going on 60 years old now, some of them, who were checking out the children's books back in the day. And I just thought that was so cool. And then some of the titles, Making Friends.
Yes.
It was hilarious. But, that it made me so thankful to be in a church where the families did take that covenant.
Yeah, absolutely. And
seriously.
Speaking of pastoral ministry, that helps in pastoral ministry. I can't tell you now how many times we've had conversations in session meetings where we're able to say, you know what, this person is a member of our church. This person has taken membership vows. We have a responsibility in their life. Or, you know what, this person actually never has joined. They attend regularly. So we really don't have a significant voice in their life. And what we try to explain to people in our membership class is, if you don't join this church and take vows, you limit what we are going to be able to do for you.
One more personal question, maybe. I just always wondered this, an observation. How difficult is it, or is it difficult, since you're the pastor and you're the one doing, the head shepherding of the church, is it hard just to make regular friends in the covenant community?
It's hard for Carl to make friends in any community.
I got you and Todd and my wife. And
I mean, seriously, I kind of feel sorry for pastors in that way, because you are held up to this level, and then you're, a big part of administering the discipline.
I like to chat to strangers in bars and pretend they're my friends.
Hey there, fella.
Yeah,
Dave,
Dave,
be my friend.
and Brian, and some of the guys' name I can't remember, but they're all good friends.
Todd's pipes are his friends.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Todd has an imaginary friend.
I do.
Sylvester.
I do.
And,
He's a very good friend.
it's embarrassing. We used to travel with Todd, and he wouldn't allow me to ride in the front because Sylvester, his invisible friend, had to sit in the seat at the front.
I want everybody to know that Carl and I are joking about this because we either joke about it or we're going to start crying.
He's embarrassed about it now. You see, it all comes out.
Amy actually asks a very good question, because the fact
Why don't you get Sylvester to answer it then?
Carl Trueman has the luxury of being like quad vocational.
Quad vocational.
And so he has friends all over the world.
Yes. Just nobody in my own neighborhood.
Exactly. He doesn't like the people in the church.
I've never met any of my friends. I just
if Carl doesn't like the people in his church, then he's got the faculty at Westminster. Well, they don't like him either. But
I was dean for 6 years. They don't like me.
He's got somebody somewhere. But Amy, I would say this, that it's not easy. I don't have time to have a whole network of friendships in all these different areas. I am fortunate, all kidding aside, I am fortunate to have some guys like Carl out there who I can and have. And Sylvester commiserated with on any number of occasions that I wouldn't be comfortable with, particularly in a church. However, that said, I think it's very important for a pastor to have friends in his church. I used to be told as a youth pastor, you're never going to have close friends in your church. I understand where that comes from. I get it. I just don't think it's healthy. I need my wife to have good friends in our church. I need to have good friends in our church. We're blessed to be in a church where we can see that happen. That said, I may tell Carl things, and a couple of other guys I know, that I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable saying somebody in the church. But that said, a pastor needs to be very careful not to get really lonely, because he can isolate himself. It's easy to do that in pastoral ministry.
Yeah, I would think it'd be hard to kind of just be yourself sometimes.
Your church knows you're a sinner, but as soon as they actually see the specific sins, they get real upset.
Right.
They know you're a sin. They know you're a sinner, kind of categorically.
Right.
But if they actually see one of them, they tend to freak out.
And I think friends are important from a criticism perspective as well. I found this. I learned this in the academic world before the pastoral world. But in the academic world, there are 4 or 5 guys worldwide whose opinion I really value. There are lots and lots of competent academics, but the 4 or 5 guys I'm close to, And if my work's trashed by somebody and I turn to those 4 or 5 guys and they say, the person's got a point, or no, the person doesn't know what they're talking about, I trust their opinion. I've transferred that into the church. There are a number of the elders at Cornerstone that I'm close to. I trust them. Again, Todd is a guy that if an issue came up at Cornerstone, difficult pastoral issue, he's one of the guys I would email immediately without giving names or details, but saying, look, the situation's come up in the church, what advice do you have? So I found it very helpful to have guys give advice like that. And of course, Amy, yourself, I call on you as I call on Katrina, my wife, to get
things like that.
Fashion advice and a woman's perspective on things.
Right.
I think it's helpful to have a woman's perspective on these matters.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think this has really been a great conversation that counts, and I just want to thank everyone for listening to Mortification of Spin. And please visit our website, mortificationofspin.org, and we'll talk to you next time.
You've got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old past said. Boy, you got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me.
Thanks for listening to Mortification of Spin, a podcast of the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals. The Alliance is a coalition of pastors, scholars, and churchmen who hold to the historical creeds and confessions of the Reformed faith, and who proclaim biblical doctrine in order to foster a Reformed awakening in today's church. Don't forget to go to mortificationofspin.org to download a free message, Faithful and Relevant Pastoral Ministry by Terry Johnson. While you're there, be sure to check out the blog section to find extras and read articles by our hosts. Listen in next time when Carl, Amy, and Todd attempt to apologize to their listeners.
I'm sorry that...
What am I sorry about? I'm
By
bad
the
at admitting
way-
I'm wrong.
I was just going to say, this is great. Amy doesn't regret anything. Okay, I'll kick off. I've got a regret. I've got something I'm sorry for.
And Carl finds an interesting topic for conversation.
John Piper has no regrets. Well, that's outrageous.
Well, that's next time on Mortification of Spin, when we'll talk about how leaders need to use their platform even to admit when they're wrong. We'll talk to you next week.
Hello?
I lost Amy. Lost you on audio.
I'm just getting expletives deleted flashing on my screen. That's all. She's just frozen.
Yep, now she's frozen.
I got kicked off again.
Well, I think it
We
was
got-
because of
you-
the profanity.
Oh, brother.